A man in a flat cap peels away from the crowd like he's late for nothing, and yet everything depends on his timing. It's Moscow, 1989, and the street is loud with buses, boots, and the soft hiss of winter breath. In one hand, he carries a plain plastic bag that looks empty until it shifts heavy against his leg. At the corner, a queue snakes past a grocery window that has more posters than food, and two teenagers in padded jackets stare at the bag the way you'd stare at a miracle. Because in the city, the most valuable prices aren't printed anywhere, and the riskiest transactions can happen in broad daylight. So what's actually inside that bag? Tonight, I'm taking you on a tour of Moscow's black market in the last years of the Soviet Union, when official reality and lived reality split into two different worlds. And 1989 matters, because the old rules still exist, but the new ones are already pushing through the cracks, half reform, half collapse, a gray zone where almost everyone is improvising. This isn't just a story about criminals and cops. For millions of people, this was the economy, how you found what you needed, how you protected your family, how you survived a system that insisted everything was provided. But here's what nobody tells you. The black market wasn't only breaking the rules, it was revealing the truth. We start where all of this begins, the line. In Soviet Moscow, the queue isn't a nuisance. It's a second job, an unpaid shift you work for, only the chance at meat, soap, boots, or oranges when the season allows it. You can spot the experienced ones because they don't ask, what are we waiting for? They ask, did they bring enough? And when did you get in line? Like soldiers comparing the front. A pensioner clutches her shopping net with hands that look permanently cold. And she's not here because she enjoys standing in slush. She's here because if you're not in the line, you're not in the running. Officially, prices are stable, polite, almost comforting. In practice, goods vanish fast and the shelves stay empty so often that people stop trusting the shelves entirely. And that's the engine. When the price can't rise, the line does. When the store can't say sold out, it just becomes not delivered. A factory worker in a worn coat lights a cigarette, glances at the storefront, and mutters a joke he's told 100 times. They pretend to pay us, and we pretend to work. He laughs, but not too hard, because the deeper truth is sharper. The state can keep the tag low, but it can't force the supply to appear, and it can't force people to stop wanting. In a planned system, production targets are numbers on paper, and those numbers don't always match what people actually this week, in this neighborhood, at this exact moment. So you get a strange kind of wealth, rubles in your pocket, and nothing worth buying. And if that sounds impossible, keep watching, because the black market didn't begin with greed, it began with absence. Now look closer at the queue, because not everyone is waiting for the same thing. Some people are here for dinner, some are here for trade. A young mother shifts her child from one arm to the other, eyes half closed from exhaustion, and when she finally reaches the counter, the clerk shrugs, "No butter today." Behind her, someone quietly asks, "Would you take margarine?" And she flinches like she's been offered a secret. This is how shortages distort morality. You don't wake up planning to bend rules. You wake up needing calories, shoes, soap, dignity. But here's the twist. In 1989, the queue itself becomes a marketplace, a place where information travels faster than trucks. Someone whispers that a delivery came in 2 blocks away, and the line thins as if the wind pulled it apart. Someone else whispers a name, just a name, and a few heads turn, cautious, interested, because sometimes the shortest line in Moscow is the one that isn't a line. And that's where our tour steps off the official map. Not into a dark alley with neon crime signs, but into ordinary spaces, underpasses, courtyards, station entrances, places that are busy enough to hide you and anonymous enough to swallow you. The first thing you notice isn't the deals, it's the scanning. People don't look at your face the way they do in a friendly city. They look through you, past you, measuring whether you're a customer, a threat, or just another hungry stranger. You can smell it too. Exhaust, damp wool, cheap tobacco, and something sweet, foreign chewing gum like a perfume from another planet. And suddenly the economy feels less like a textbook and more like weather. Unpredictable, everywhere, changing by the hour. But here's what nobody tells you. In Moscow, the black market didn't replace the state it ran, alongside it, like a shadow that never left your heels. To understand that shadow, you have to understand hard currency. In the Soviet Union, the ruble is the official money, the only money most people are allowed to use openly, and the money your wages arrive in. But the ruble has a problem in 1989. It doesn't translate, not just into dollars, into availability. Because there are certain goods that feel like magic precisely because the Soviet system can't easily produce them or import enough of them. And those goods tend to orbit one gravitational center, foreign currency. Dollars, marks, yen money that can open doors the ruble can't, money that signals outside in a country trained to treat outside as both temptation and danger. And that's where the street learns its second language, the language of shadow prices. Officially, a product has one price, set by planners and printed in tidy numbers. Unofficially, it has another price, set by hunger, prestige, and panic. The real price wasn't on the tag. A student, thin, intense, eyes always moving, stands near a metro entrance, pretending to read a newspaper. His shoes are scuffed, his gloves mismatched, but his jacket is suspiciously stylish. He didn't buy that style at a state store. He traded for it, or someone traded for him. Because fashion in Moscow isn't just fashion, it's proof of access. He tells a friend, half proud and half terrified, that the jacket cost a month, and he doesn't even specify a month of what? Wages? Favors? Time? Because in 1989, prices are measured in life, not in rubles. And that's where it gets dangerous. When money stops being a clear scale, people start paying in whatever they have: connection, risk, silence. So what do people want badly enough to do that? Start with the classics, jeans. To a Western viewer, jeans are ordinary, almost boring. To a Soviet teenager, they're a declaration comfortable, durable, and screamingly not from here. A pair of real Western jeans could be the kind of item someone talks about for weeks, the kind of thing you hide under a bed like it's contraband, the kind of thing that turns heads in the courtyard. But jeans aren't just about vanity, they're about quality. When you live with shortages, you learn the difference between available and good, and you learn it in blisters, in broken zippers, in shoes that die after one season. Then come electronics, a portable cassette player, a video player, a decent camera objects that compress an entire other world into plastic and buttons. To own one is to own time. Music when you want it, movies when you want them, proof that the future exists somewhere and you can hold it. And then there's food, not the basics. Bread is bread, but the special things that turn a table into a celebration. Coffee that smells rich instead of burnt, chocolate that snaps clean, citrus in winter, sausage that isn't mostly filler. Cosmetics too, lipstick, perfume, shampoo, small luxuries that let people feel human when everything else tries to make them feel like a unit. But here's what nobody tells you. Desire wasn't the only force driving the black market. Humiliation was fuel too. Imagine you work all month and still can't reliably buy decent soap. Imagine you stand in line for hours and get told, calmly, that there's nothing left. Imagine your child asks why the store is empty and you don't know how to explain an economy without prices. Now, the bag in that man's hand at the corner starts to matter a lot more, because that bag might contain coffee or medicine or spare parts that keep a refrigerator alive, or something as simple as diapers, things that turn scarcity into stress and stress into quiet desperation. And desperation is a market. A sailor comes into our story next, because sailors are a rumor in Moscow. They travel, they see ports, they touch foreign goods like they're normal, and then they return to a city where foreign goods feel like myths. This sailor has shoulders like a door frame and a smile that says he's heard every request already. People don't approach him like a stranger. They approach him like a moving store. He doesn't shout, he doesn't advertise, he just stands, and the crowd rearranges itself around him. And if you think that sounds like power, wait for it, because in a shortage economy, supply is authority, but authority attracts attention, and attention attracts police. In Soviet law, speculation isn't a cute word for entrepreneurship, it's an accusation. The system is built on the idea that private profit from resale is parasitic, a moral failure, a threat to the collective order. So the black market doesn't just carry goods, it carries risk. And risk changes everything about human behavior. A deal that would feel casual in another country becomes a small performance here, faces neutral, voices low, movements ordinary. Not because everyone is a master criminal, but because everyone knows the same lesson. you can get in trouble fast, and sometimes for reasons that have nothing to do with what you did. But here's what nobody tells you. In 1989, the scariest part isn't always the police, it's not knowing who's watching. Informants are a fog over the city's social life. Maybe the guy who smiles too much is curious. Maybe he's ambitious. Maybe he's trying to protect himself by feeding names upward. So people develop a new kind of trust, not procedural, not contractual, but emotional. Trust becomes a feeling you test in tiny moments, a shared complaint about empty shelves, a mutual friend's name spoken softly, a look that says, "I'm not here to hurt you." A woman in her 40s teacher posture, tired eyes, meets someone outside a kiosk and holds her bag close, like it's a heartbeat. She isn't thrill-seeking. She's trying to buy a specific kind of medicine for her father, the kind that doesn't show up when the clinic promises it will. When she speaks like someone reading from a script she hates. And the person across from her listens like someone who understands that a life can depend on something as small as a bottle. This is the part that's hard to romanticize. Because for every story of jeans and music, there's a story of survival, of people patching holes in a system that was never designed to admit holes existed. And that's where it gets dangerous, when a market becomes the emergency room of daily life. Now, about the police. You might picture a single, clear enemy, the stern officer, the sudden arrest, the dramatic chase. The reality is messier. A police officer in a gray coat steps out of a patrol car, and you can see the fatigue in his face before you see the authority. He's not just enforcing law, he's navigating it. His own wages are paid in the same rubles that buy less and less. His wife stands in the same queues. His kids want the same forbidden things. So when he watches a cluster of people near an underpass, what is he seeing? Crime? Or the only functioning distribution system left on the street? But here's what nobody tells you. Enforcement in a collapsing system becomes selective, inconsistent, and personal. Sometimes someone gets dragged in to make an example. Sometimes someone gets waved away because the officer doesn't want paperwork, or doesn't want trouble, or doesn't want to ruin a life over a pack of coffee. And sometimes the officer is watching for a different reason entirely, because higher-ups want results, and results require names. That uncertainty is its own kind of violence. It makes everyone flinchier, quicker to judge, quicker to disappear. And it creates a strange paradox. The black market becomes both widespread and brittle, everywhere and fragile at the same time. Now let's zoom out, because 1989 isn't just another year. It's the year the ground starts shifting under people's feet. Perestroika is supposed to be restructuring, a controlled repair. In practice, it opens doors without knowing what's behind them. Cooperatives appear, semi-private businesses allowed to operate in ways that would have been unthinkable a few years earlier. You start seeing little signs of commerce that look almost normal. New services, small workshops, kiosks that feel oddly lively. But the old system doesn't vanish when the new one arrives. It overlaps. Prices are still controlled in many places, but shortages are getting worse. People hear rumors about reforms, currency changes, new rules, then another rumor contradicts it by lunchtime, and that's where it gets dangerous. When nobody knows what will be legal next month, everyone tries to make tomorrow less scary. A young engineer, clean nails, careful speech, does something his father would call reckless. He joins a cooperative, hoping it's a path to dignity. For the first time, he can earn more than the standard wage, maybe even buy things without begging favors from friends. But he also becomes a target. Neighbors whisper that he's getting rich. Old colleagues call him a traitor behind polite smiles. And the state looks at him with suspicion, because when you let people earn differently, you admit that equality was never the same as fairness. But here's what nobody tells you. Perestroika didn't erase the black market. It made it harder to define. When a kiosk sells imported shampoo at a price that makes your jaw drop, is that business or is that exploitation? When someone resells goods obtained through connection, is that entrepreneurship or is that the old corruption wearing a new tie? The moral lines blur, and blurred lines make everyone nervous. Because if the rules are unclear, the punishments can feel arbitrary. Now we come to the reveal that changes how you see the whole tour. The black market in Moscow wasn't just a criminal underworld hiding beneath socialism. It was a parallel pricing system, a second set of signals telling people what things were actually worth when scarcity and desire collided. The official economy said, bread costs this, soap costs that, a coat costs this much. The shadow economy answered, not today, not here, not for you. And the aha is simple, brutal, and unforgettable. You could have two prices for the same item, one in the book and one in the street. On paper, a monthly wage might look respectable. In real life, one coveted purchase could swallow that wage whole. Not because people were irrational, but because the official price ignored the one thing markets are good at measuring: how badly people want something right now. Because the real price wasn't on the tag, it was in the waiting, the whispering, the fear. And once you see that, you start to notice something else. The black market was also a symptom of incentive. When your factory gets rewarded for hitting quantity targets, quality suffers. When your store has no reason to attract customers because customers have nowhere else to go, service decays. When prices are frozen, shortages become permanent and connections become currency. So people build their own system on top of the old one, not because they love risk, but because they love their families. But here's what nobody tells you. The black market didn't just fill gaps. It quietly taught people how a different economy might feel. Choice, speed, the shocking idea that if you pay more, you can get it now. It's intoxicating and it's corrosive because it changes what people expect. And once expectations change, the old promises don't sound convincing. Now, remember our cold, open Moscow street, 1989? The plastic bag that looked empty until it moved? We're back there. The man with the flat cap reaches the corner just as the traffic light changes, and for a second, the crowd surges and swallows him. A patrol car rolls past, slow, tires hissing on wet asphalt, and every face near the corner becomes suddenly interested in the sky. The man doesn't run. He simply turns his shoulders the way commuters do, and the bag shifts again heavy, alive with whatever the state failed to provide. A teenager takes half a step forward, then stops, eyes flicking to the patrol car, then back to the bag. And that's where it gets dangerous, in the space between wanting and daring. The patrol car keeps moving. The officer inside doesn't look, or maybe he does, and chooses not to. And in that tiny decision made in a heartbeat on a Moscow street, you can feel an entire system loosening, one unspoken compromise at a time. Because the Soviet Union in 1989 is still standing, still official, still painted onto banners and news broadcasts. But on the sidewalk, in the underpass, in the hush of a transaction that nobody admits happened, a different truth is already winning. The black market isn't just a story about goods. It's a story about trust collapsing and people rebuilding it in private. It's a story about prices that refused to speak officially, so they spoke in shadows instead. And it's a story about a city on the edge of a change so big, it's hard to describe until you've lived through. Moscow at night feels like iron and snow. The lamps smear yellow light over slush. The buildings loom like tired monuments. And somewhere, a radio plays a cheerful song that doesn't match anyone's face. People go home with bags that are heavier than they should be, or lighter than they hoped. And they don't talk too loudly in stairwells, because tomorrow might bring a delivery, or a crackdown, or a new rule that makes yesterday's survival suddenly illegal. But here's what nobody tells you. The most haunting part of 1989 isn't what people did, it's how normal it started to feel. A tour like this doesn't end with a dramatic finale. It ends the way real lives end their days, with small victories, small losses, and the sense that the ground is shifting even when you stand still. So let me leave you with one question, and I want you to answer it honestly in the comments. If you lived in that Moscow, where the official price promised fairness, but the street price delivered reality, would you have wanted the security of the old system or the choice of the new one?